snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do another Kaitlin Recommends video, and today I'm going to be recommending you guys just awesome fantasy. Fantasy that blew my mind, fantasy that I love, series that I love. This is not a complete list of all of my favourite series because I'm going to be doing lists on long fantasy, I'm going to be doing lists on grimdark fantasy, flintlock fantasy, shorter fantasy, so there are other lists I'm going to be doing. So if some of your favourites don't appear in this list, but you can see them on my bookshelf, they'll probably appear in another list somewhere. But this one is just an awesome fantasy list to get us started with the adult fantasy stuff. So these are all adult fantasies, and they are just some of my all-time favourites that I just really, really love. Most of them are high or epic fantasy. I think 2 of them are standalones and the rest are starts in a series, but I really love all of these books, so let's get started. So the first one is actually a very, very small book because I have the flip back edition, which is like a tiny version of a book and it's printed on really, really thin paper, but it is actually the whole book, so I'll put a bigger picture up on the screen for you guys. But this is by Jasper Fforde and I really, really enjoyed this. Everything is determined by the rule book and the social hierarchy is definitely determined by the rule book, and it's all determined on your perception of colour and how well you can see colour, how many different variations of colour you can see. It's a really great story. There are so many different things that happen in this book. I enjoyed it immensely. It's supposed to be the first one in a series, but I don't think Jasper Fforde is planning on writing the next one anytime soon, so for the moment it's kind of a standalone, which is a bit annoying because I do want to know what happens next, but I really enjoyed the story. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a really fun idea to have a whole hierarchy based on colour perception, and it's a very weird world that they live in where strange things kind of are part of the everyday life. And I just think this is a great and really underrated book. So I've seen a few people talking about it on BookTube, but not many and not recently. So I just wanted to get you guys aware of this. I think it's a really, really good adult fantasy dystopian type book. It's kind of a mush of both of those things, dystopian and fantasy. And I just really enjoyed this. I thought it's a great, great read, and I would highly recommend this. So if you guys have ever read this, then definitely let me know, and if you've not read it and you want to, definitely let me know about that as well, because I hope that more people pick this up because it's a really, really good series, or start of a series, and I do hope that one day he comes back to it and finishes it off because it would be amazing, because I think it's a lot better than his YA series. So yeah, I really hope he does come back and finish this off someday. Next we have the Demon Cycle series, which is by Peter V. Brett, and it's an ongoing series. I believe there's going to be 5 in the series, and the first one is The Painted Man in the UK, or it's called The Warded Man in the US. And I love this series so much. I have heard from a couple people that they don't love it as much as I do, but I just adore this series so, so much. It's set in a world where demons are basically scaring the population, so no one dares to go out at night and everyone's very terrified. And it's basically set in a world where there used to be technology, everything used to be very nice and happy and fancy, and then one day the demons attacked back and all of the technology was lost and all of their discoveries were lost. So now they're very much back into a kind of medieval period where they don't have a lot of technology, they don't really know how to defeat the demons. There's different types of demons, wood demons, sand demons, all sorts of demons are in this world, and they have to try and get someone who is going to root them all together and bring them all together in order to fight back, and that's basically what this story focuses on. And then that idea and concept is expanded upon. I gave all of these books 5 out of 5 stars. I love them. I think they're amazing, and Peter V. Brett is solidly one of my favourite authors for all time. So yeah, I think I would read anything he brought out because I love this series so, so much, and cannot get across to you guys how much I love it. It's so, so good. Next I have one of these standalones, and this is The Book Thief, which is by Markus Zusak. I'm sure you guys have heard of this because a film came out about a year or 2 ago, and I love the film. I think the film did this book so much justice, and I basically cried through half the film, and for me that was just amazing that they could bring this book to life. Basically, this is kind of like a historical fiction or a historical fantasy. It's set in the war in Nazi Germany, and It focuses on a young girl and her life during this time. The kind of fantastical element is that we're seeing it from the point of view of Death, and we're seeing Death as he looks down on the girl and sort of sees her life unfold and sort of sees where she's going wrong, what's going on with her life. And I just adore this story. I think it is beautifully, beautifully written. I would love to read something else by Markus Zusak, so if you guys have any suggestions on where to go next with him, definitely let me know, because I really want to read more of his books. This is a definite 5-star read. It made me cry when I was reading it. The movie made me cry. It's just so emotional. So much stuff happens. Obviously, it's based in a war, so obviously bad stuff's going to happen, and it's a sad read for sure. It's not a happy-go-lucky read, but it's so heart-wrenchingly good, and I love it so much, and I cannot recommend this to you guys more because it is amazing. Plus, this book cover is stunning, so I just love this book so, so much. It is a standalone, and I would love to read more of his books, so definitely let me know on that front, but 5 out of 5 stars for this one for sure. Next I have the Gentleman's Bastard series, which is by Scott Lynch, the first of those being The Lies of Loch Lamora. I'm sure loads of you guys have heard of most of these books I'm going to show you, but this is amazing. It is about a young boy called Locke, and he is a really, really fun character to read about. He starts off as an orphan on the street stealing and being a thief, and as we go through the book we see a lot more of his life and how he develops as a character and what he does to kind of escape that life, and he kind of plans these big heists later on in the book that are just incredibly well thought out. The whole book is really well tied together. All of the strings come together in a really interesting way. The characters are beautiful. They are really, really well done and very well developed. And generally the whole series is fantastic. I've read the first 3, the 4th one is not out, but I think it comes out later this year or next year, which will be amazing, so I cannot wait to read that. But The Lies of Loch Lamora is just so good. The characters, the story, it just makes me smile thinking about it, and I really, really cannot recommend more to you guys. This series is just exceptional. 5 out of 5 stars again. Pretty much all of these books are going to be 5 out of 5 because they are just fantastic. Then I have a book that I very recently read, and this is by Miles Cameron. It is The Red Knight, and I love this book so, so much. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I'm so looking forward to continuing on with the series. It's really, really well told. It's told from various different points of view, but it focuses on one world where basically the human population is drastically decreased in this world, and the wild, which is essentially where all of these magical, mythical demon creatures live, is kind of overrunning the world slowly and starting to expand into the human population. We have a whole host of characters who are all dealing with this kind of expansion of the wild in their own way. We have characters who are on the good side and on the bad side, so it's so much fun to read. It's really, really well written. The understanding of battles and warfare is fantastic, and you don't get lost in the battle scenes at all. You just enjoy them and read them and smile, and I really, really love this so, so much. I definitely can't wait to pick up the next one. Miles Cameron is an excellent writer. He's actually a historical fiction writer mostly, and this is kind of his first venture into fantasy, and he's done it so, so well because of that historical fiction background. He can really tell a story and convince you that it's in this time, and the characters are all incredible in their own way. The Red Knight, the Abbess, Michael the Squire, they're all fantastic. I love them all, and I just would highly, highly recommend this. I don't think enough people have read this. It's fairly new out. I think it came out a year or 2 ago, and it's just deserving of so many more people reading it. So if you've heard of this but you weren't sure if you wanted to pick it up, please pick it up. It's really, really good, and I cannot recommend higher to you guys. Any of these books are just fantastic. So yeah, all amazing. Then I have The Left Hand of God, which is by Paul Hoffman. This is a kind of hit or miss series, I think. If you don't like religion in books, you won't enjoy this because this story all focuses on religion, but if you don't mind religion in books and you actually find it really interesting, or you think it's a really interesting concept, this is all focused around a young boy who grows up in a sort of monastery, and it's very, very strict there. He basically isn't allowed to do anything except what the Redeemers, who are basically the monks, tell them to do. All of the boys there don't ever go out the monastery unless they're allowed to. They have hard chores that they have to do. They have to learn these certain scriptures and all sorts of things, and they've never seen a girl or been out the monastery if they're not allowed to. So it's a really, really interesting story just from the point of view of a trapped child, and he is quite an adventurous child, the one that we follow. He's called Thomas Cale. The religion plays a massive part in this book because he's constantly battling with whether he believes in it or not, and his destiny and fate and things like that. And I just love this series. I would definitely say it's a fantasy series, even though there's not a lot of fantastical elements, there are some, and I just think it's a really wonderfully written book that I never hear about, so I don't know why people don't pick it up, but this is another one that is really underrated, and I just think it's fantastic. Very sad in places, there are some sort of tragic moments and sad moments, and the story as a whole is just really good. I've read the first 2 in this series, I still have the 3rd waiting for me on my TBR, which I do definitely want to read very soon. I believe it's only a trilogy, and I cannot wait to continue on with this because I gave the 1st and 2nd like 5 and 4 stars, so I really love this series so much, and again, just pick it up, read it and love it as much as I do, and then come back and tell me that you loved it, because that would make my day. Next I have Blood Song, which is by Anthony Ryan. This is in the Raven Shadow series, and I love this book so much. It is about Valen Alsorna, who is a young boy when we first meet him, but then we see him growing up and we see the trials that he goes through when he joins up with the Sixth Order, which is basically a kind of religious, but not that religious, sect, and they basically train the boys and train them to become whatever they need them to. And the Sixth Order is kind of like the assassin order. In that order they learn how to quickly kill men quietly and sneak around, and basically one of the things that I loved about this book and this series is the camaraderie between the characters. The boys that we meet in this story have a great friendship. It's one of the most wonderful friendships I've ever seen. I think the boys as a group are just fantastic. Valen himself is fantastic, but all of the others are great in their own right, and the story has some interesting mythical, magical elements too, and it's just really good. Like, the camaraderie and fun in this story, despite the cruelty of the world and the sadness of what they go through, is just fantastic, and I really love this story. I cannot wait for the 3rd one to come out, because the 3rd one is due out I think later this year or next year, and I just cannot wait for it. I didn't love the 2nd one quite as much. I gave the 2nd one like 3.5, but the 1st one is a 5-star outstanding book for sure, and I will definitely be continuing on with the series because I do want to find out what happens in the end, and hopefully I will love that one. A fantastic read all round. Then I have a book that is not going to surprise any of you guys, and that is The Final Empire, which is the first one in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. In this world there are various different characters who we follow. We follow 2 main characters, Kelsey and Vin, and we follow them on their own separate stories until they converge, and then we follow both of them together. And I love this story. I really love all of the books in this trilogy. I think the 3rd one is my favourite, but the 1st and 2nd are still excellent, and I just love this so much. It's about a world where people can basically drink metals, like liquid metals, and they can burn them inside their stomachs, and certain metals give you certain powers. So for instance, you have tin and pewter and things like this, which will give you strength and will give you extra hearing and things like that. It's just a really cool idea. Brandon Sanderson is famous for fantastic magical systems, and this is no exception. It's absolutely fantastic. The characters are really good. There are kick-ass female and male characters, and they're just awesome. This book made me feel so much, and especially like the 2nd and 3rd books are also great, and there's so many twists and things I wasn't expecting, so I highly recommend this series. If you've not already read it, it's a great one to read. Next I have The Night Circus, which is by Erin Morgenstern. This is a standalone book as well, and it focuses on a kind of battle between 2 magicians who are growing up, and they both come to a circus called the Night Circus. One of them lives within the circus and one of them is kind of an assistant there, and they don't know who the other one is. They have no idea who the person is that they are against, but they basically have to create various different magical things and features of the circus that will basically one-up the other one. So there's a lot of magic in this book. It is fantastic. The realism of the magic is unbelievable. It just works so well as a story, and there is so much enchantingness and wondrous stuff in this story that is just beautiful to read about. The writing is very lyrical, it's very fantastical, and just, oh, it's such a good book. There are some cool twists, the characters are cool, but it's so much more than that. It's very ethereal. There are some really wonderful things that I could vividly imagine whilst I was reading it. So again, another one I would highly recommend. And then the final one that I'm going to recommend to you guys in my awesome fantasy video is Kingkiller Chronicles, which starts off with The Name of the Wind. I don't have it at the moment because I lent it to my friend, but I love this series. It's by Patrick Rothfuss, and it focuses on one main character called Kavoth, and we basically see him over 3 days telling his life story to a chronicler. The first book, The Name of the Wind, is the first day. The second book is The Wise Man's Fear, and that is the second day of him telling his story, not of his life. The third one's not out yet, but the first two I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I love them both. This is such a detailed story. It's such a great understanding of the character. It really develops the character over the course of the story. We get to see a lot of different cultures. We get to see a lot of different adventures that our character goes on, and the growth of his character is fantastic. I think Patrick Rothfuss has a great lyrical writing style as well, and he's just very, very good at describing our main character and getting you hooked into the story straight away. And it is a long book. They're all long books, all the ones I've said, but they're all so worth it, so good. I cannot recommend or get across to you guys as much as I want to, but they are fantastic in their own right. All of them 5 out of 5 or 4.5. Basically amazing books, some of my all-time favourite reads, some of my all-time favourite authors, and I cannot get across how much I love them. But if, as I say, there are some books on my bookshelf or wherever that you guys know I've read, but that they're not on this list, they might well be on one of my other lists that I'm going to be doing very, very soon. So I would love to hear if you've got any recommendations of what your most awesome fantasy books are, if you agree with any of the ones I've said, or if you have your own choices that I haven't mentioned. Definitely leave me comments. I would love to hear all of your thoughts. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.